looking at myself, and I was like, it's
I was like, fix my hair. You got me turned. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a little after 3 o'clock. The Business and Utility Subcommittee is now in session. Mr. Clerk, open the board so we can take the roll, please. Mr. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I know I am new to this committee, and I don't know exactly how things have been done in the past, but the committee that I was chairing before this, we customarily had someone pray over the meeting and said the pledge. So if you would, please stand with me, and now we're going to ask Clark Boyd to lead us in a prayer, and then he'll lead us in the pledge. Yeah, there you go.
Let's pray. Father, we just thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity to come together, Lord, as a committee, as friends and brothers and sisters in Christ, God. And we just pray, Lord, just a blessing over everyone on this committee, Lord. Be with Chairman Grills, Lord, as he leads us in this committee, Lord. Give him wisdom, give him favor, Lord. And God, just use us in your will, Lord, and everything that we do. And we thank you. We love you for Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chairman Boyd, and thank you, committee. As we start this committee here, I want to just start off by saying thank you to Chairman Vaughn for helping me the last week try to get prepared for today, and Chairman Boyd for, I guess I can keep calling you Chairman Boyd, Kenna Clark, for all the help you've given me over the past week as well, and just the different meetings we've had. Y'all been great, and I really appreciate that. But I just wanted to tell everyone my intentions as the chairman of this committee is, I know the bills that we consider in this committee are somewhat different from those of my previous posts, but the guiding principles we apply are the same. And whether we are talking about growing crops or starting a business, we ultimately believe in empowering the individual Tennessean to make the best decision for their lives. Still, I'm thrilled to be involved with various utilities that our neighbors rely on. Plus, I'm eager to help safeguard and boost the business environment that has made Tennessee a shining example for almost every state in the union. I promise to be fair, transparent, consistent as we run this committee. My office is open, and I'm here to chat, listen to any concerns or any issues we might encounter. Thank you again for your patience as we move forward and keeping Tennessee great. And with that, I do ask for your patience once again as we try to do this thing the right way. Are there any personal orders that before we get started with the calendar? Seeing none, we'll start. We have 3 bills on the calendar today. First bill is House 1673 by Chairman Butler, and Chairman Bricken, he's asked to roll that bill 1 week. Without objection, we'll roll that bill 1 week. The next bill on the agenda is House Bill 1847 by Chairman Butler. He's also asked to roll that bill 1 week. So without objection, we'll roll that bill 1 week. Next on the list is House Bill 469, Representative Reeves. We have a motion? Second. You have a motion and a second. You're properly before the committee. You are now recognized.
Thank you, sir. I've got an amendment I'd like to add.
I believe I've got 7 here. Which one of them?
Yeah, we got a few. We're at 013111.
013111. Would you like to put that amendment on the bill?
Yes, sir, I would.
Does that amendment make the bill?
It does, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of putting this amendment on the bill, say aye. Any objections? The amendment has been put on the bill. You are now recognized on the bill as amended.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, members, this bill is a narrow, limited change to Tennessee's existing residential landlord-tenant law, and it provides that a landlord may not prohibit lawful possession, carrying, transportation, or storage of a firearm inside a tenant's leased residential premises. It also allows possession in the tenant's vehicle and necessary entry and exit between the vehicle and the dwelling. And the bill applies only to residential leases. It is prospective beginning on January 1st of 2027. And it contains explicit exclusions for a number of things, including hospitals and nursing homes and assisted care facilities, certain independent living facilities, DCS, mental health facilities, state agency premises, and school property. At its core, this bill recognizes that a leased dwelling unit is someone's home. A renter should not have fewer rights of lawful self-defense inside their home than someone who owns. And again, this fits within the residential lease framework that we already regulate extensively. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any questions, Representative Reeves? And we also have people on the list that would like to testify. We'll go to you, Chairman Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Post. Just another idea that popped into my head. Sorry to bring this up, but if I've got a basement apartment at my house and I absolutely positively don't want to rent to anybody, it's got a weapon, is that still okay by this bill?
Representative Reeves, you recognized?
If it falls under the URLTA or the other part of the property code, and it is a residential lease, you'd be subject to this the same as you would be with habitability inspections, right to utility access, and other things.
Chairman Lafferty.
So if my grandmother wanted to rent her basement apartment, she could not tell somebody, hey, I'm sorry, I don't want any firearms in this house.
Representative Reeves.
Well, she could say that for the main house, but for the leased premises, this bill would apply.
Chairman Lafferty.
All right, I'm good. Thank you, Chairman.
I have 6 people on our list: Hayes O'Donnell, James Lehman, Brittany Winston, Toby Meyer, Kristen Pressburg, and Johanna Keohan. If any of those are here and they would like to testify, without objection, we'll go out of session. If y'all would come forward. And please sit down. You have 3 minutes. And as you sit down and you start to speak, please identify yourself. With the lady over here in the teal, if you will, we'll let you start first. You'll have 3 minutes to make an opening statement. Then the committee will ask questions of you. And then you're recognized now.
Wonderful, thank you.
What's your name? Please state your name and who you're supporting.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Britt Winston, and I'm the Tennessee State Director for Women for Gun Rights. Tennessee is known as a state that values freedom. We value personal responsibility. It's one of the reasons why I'm really proud to be a Tennessean. But right now, there's a quiet contradiction in our law, and it's one that most people don't even know affects them until it affects them personally. In Tennessee today, a law-abiding citizen can be legally allowed to own a firearm and still be prohibited from possessing it inside their home simply because they rent. And that should give all of us pause. I think about when I've been a young woman working in the city, renting an apartment. I didn't have a husband. I didn't even have a boyfriend at the time. I was my own protector. And I felt like I should have the right to protect myself inside the dwelling where I make my home. And there are many people who make their homes inside of leased and rented spaces where they raise their children, where they're building their families. And they might not have the opportunity or option to own their own home. So they are in a renter situation. At its core, I believe this issue is not political, it's practical. If you're not allowed to keep arms in your home, then you don't meaningfully have the right to keep arms at all. And that right was never meant to be reserved for people wealthy enough to own property. What I know is that in the nation, 34% of people are renters. And I believe that Tennessee should be leading on this issue and not lagging behind. We shouldn't believe that your voice matters less because you earn less. And we certainly shouldn't believe that your family is less worthy of protecting simply because you don't own your home. So I support protecting renters' rights to protect themselves. Tennessee, again, should lead on this issue and not lag behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winston. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, you're welcome to sit back down.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're recognized. Please state your name.
Thank you, Chairman, representatives. My name is Kristen Pressberg, and I'm a resident of Rutherford County, and I've lived in the state of Tennessee for nearly 30 years. I'm a mom, and I'm a small business owner. My business is She Shoots Training, where I teach women the defensive use of firearms to protect themselves. Many of my clients come to me in the aftermath of divorce, all too frequently with a dangerous ex, and most often with children. I think of this mom who, of note, was me 5 years ago. I did not have the dangerous ex, but I found myself in an apartment responsible for protecting myself and my 2 daughters. But I think of this mom, financially unable to purchase a home, having to rent an apartment, responsible for protecting herself and her children, wanting to abide by the law, but being told by her landlord that the one thing that could save her life is not permitted where she needs it most, in her rented apartment, leaving her and her children vulnerable in the one place where they should feel most secure, at home. Another common group of my clients are single young women, much like Britt described, just starting out in life, living on their own for the first time, faced with the uncertainty of an often dangerous world, and they just want a way to protect themselves from the most violent of crimes that can occur in their home. Additionally, when I think more deeply about HB 469, I can't help but think about the financially struggling person or family that dreams of owning a home one day, but all they can currently afford is a low-rent apartment in a dangerous, crime-ridden neighborhood. As I continued to think about HB 469, I got even more curious about what the numbers are. What are the facts? So I did some research. Depending on the source, somewhere between 32 and 34% of all Tennesseans rent, not own. That's just shy of 1 million households. So I kept digging, and I found that 60% of Black and Hispanic Tennesseans rent, not own. And on crime, according to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, in 2024, 50.6% of murders and 60% of all sex offenses occurred in the victim's residence. One should feel certain of their safety at home, whether or not they own the structure. And a person should not be penalized because they can't afford a nice home in a safe neighborhood. I might not be a brilliant economist, and maybe I'm not the most gifted researcher, but I do know, like everyone else, that in lower income areas, crime rates are higher. And if Tennessee is really about equality and equal opportunity, that needs to extend into the realm of personal safety. It's a wildly privileged thing to tell someone that one day, if you've worked really hard and you finally make it, and you can own a home, and then you have the ability to protect yourself. But until then, good luck. In other words, HB 469 ensures that one's address does not make.
Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you for that. Do we have anyone has any questions? I'm one of those husbands and one of those fathers that is extremely comfortable at home knowing that my wife and my daughters have the ability to defend themselves while I'm up here and they're home alone. So I appreciate you coming up and taking some of your time to testify today. Thank you for being here. If you would, just you have 3 minutes. Please identify yourself.
Yes, sir. My name is Johanna Cohane. I'm from Robertson County, and I'm here because I oppose this bill. A home is for most people the largest single investment they will ever have, and it is natural for a homeowner to want to protect it and keep it safe. As a homeowner, I should have the right to determine whether or not I want a firearm in my home. And I'm not opposed to firearms. I do own them myself. But I believe that an individual has a right to determine whether or not a firearm should be in their home. I recognize this about tenants. That home is still an investment, and the owner still has the right to determine whether or not a firearm should be present. What the state is doing with this bill seems to me to be overreach and infringing on a property owner's rights. A property owner who has as their lease agreement that firearms are not permitted on their property is not infringing on the tenant's right to own a firearm. They can own it and store it elsewhere, or they can recognize that that home is not suitable for them. Just like if they wanted a home with a front porch and it did not have one, it would not be suitable for them for exactly the situation that Representative Lafferty brought up. If someone is renting a part of their home, a basement, whatever the case may be, or a single, home, they should have the right as the owner to decide if there's a firearm there. And again, I'm not opposed to firearms, but I believe we need to balance the property owner's rights versus the firearm right.
Thank you for that testimony. Do we have anyone with any questions? Seeing none, you're able to go sit down. Thank you so much for being here. Seeing we have no other witnesses, we'll go back in session. So without objection, we're back in session. Current posture is the bill has been amended. Representative Reeves, do you have any statement to make or any final pleas?
I'm still open for questions, and if there's not, I will issue a final statement.
Representative Powers, you recognize?
I get to go before you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have one thing just to clarify the stand your ground law, Castle Doctrine. So that would all apply to this too, wouldn't it? Just like it would in a regular homeowners.
Representative Reeves.
Well, I appreciate that question, Representative Powers. This actually doesn't touch anything else in the law other than Title 66, which is landlord-tenant law.
Chairman Powers.
Okay, but stand your ground law, that protects you in your home, or the Castle Doctrine if you're in imminent danger. So, I mean, I think that would still apply to this, wouldn't it? I mean, I would think that it would, hope they would anyway.
Yeah, I assume that that's true. I just know that we haven't dealt with that section of the code.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But as sponsor, I just want to thank you. I know you've been working on this a while. It was on our final calendar of last year. And I know there were a lot of stakeholder groups that had various issues with it, and you have responded to all of those, put together a good amendment, and it is in the posture that you originally explained to us, and I just want to commend you for doing that. And I want to say, I know for a lot of people, there's a little bit of, back and forth, property rights versus gun rights here. And of course, when you're renting a property, and I have a few rental properties that I rent out, and there's things that they rights that they have that I don't always love, but federal law gives them those rights. The Landlord Tenant Act gives them those rights. I mean, sometimes, you may not love that there's a dog in there, but if they have some sort of disability or it's a service animal, they get one. There's a lot of things like that. And so I would say that when you're renting a property, and that is essentially your home at that point, that is your castle. And so I think that if you can't exercise your Second Amendment right in your home, I don't know where you can exercise it. So although I value property rights and can understand why somebody may have that objection, I don't think it trumps one's right to the Second Amendment, especially in their home. So I'm very supportive of your bill. Thank you for cleaning it up.
Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate those comments. I mean, to be clear, it's not really a Second Amendment. We're not the government preventing anything, but we are trying to ensure that people have the right to self-defense in their own home. And I think that there's a lot of agreement about that, at least I hope, in this committee. Thank you very much.
Chairman Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. I certainly hear the arguments being made and understand them. However, I'm just trying to get my head around making sure that we're being consistent on this committee. We strive to do that and not have convoluted regulations and inconsistent regulations. And so, with regard to private property owner rights, that's where I've got concerns because I'm concerned about the contradictions. So we're saying in some cases, private property owners can limit things. In some instances, private property owners can't. And we talk about the importance of property rights in here a lot. And we tout those a lot. But here it seems to be we're limited them. And I understand and I hear, and I'm a gun owner and have guns in my home. But, and the Second Amendment's important. But the First Amendment's also important. And then this body in the past has allowed landlords and people who own private property to limit the First Amendment rights of tenants, whether putting up political signs, putting flags in front of their house. But here we're saying the Second Amendment, you can't do that if you're a private property owner. So can you help me? What's the distinction there? Why should we allow private property owners to limit First Amendment rights, but not Second Amendment rights?
Well,
Representative Reeves,
thank you.
you're
Sorry.
recognized.
Sorry, Chair. And I appreciate that question. It's a good question. I share your concern that we ought to respect landlord property rights. I think most of the people here would agree with that. I'd like to get you off of First and Second Amendment, though, because we're talking about not government imposing a restriction on that, but rather regulating in a narrow way, in my opinion, landlord-tenant law as regards residences. And I'll give you an example. I think we've, as a General Assembly, long regulated residential lease provisions as a matter of public policy, and we try to do that in a limited way. But we already regulate habitability standards. We're telling the landlord it has to be up to a certain standard for somebody to live there. We regulate security deposits and how that is goes into effect. We regulate eviction procedures. That's something that the URLTA and the other section of the property code does. We can't retaliate against a tenant. We have to make sure that it's got utility access and shutoffs. The landlord can't just go into a leased premises. They have to give proper notice unless it's an emergency, and we state that in our statute as well. We have maintenance obligations that are imposed on a landlord. And then we've got fair housing protections, including renting to families with children. We can't discriminate on a number of different things. And I think those are good policies that aim to protect a tenant, understanding that there's a balance of rights and obligations with a landlord and tenant. And this bill is a narrow addition to that framework.
Chairman Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess, I don't know if I didn't make my question clear enough or not, but, this body has allowed the same property owners to limit the First Amendment right or speech of tenants with regard to political signs, flags, and the like. And those don't have any threat of harm whatsoever, maybe disagreement, but there's certainly no threat of harm. And here it seems to be, I guess what I'm trying to rationalize is we seem to be putting the Second Amendment on a higher pedestal than the First Amendment by saying property owners can't limit those rights. And that may be what you want to do. I mean, that may be your prerogative. I'm just trying to figure out how it's appropriate for us as a committee to create that distinction and prioritize one amendment over the other. But my next question was with regards to the availability of apartment complexes or leaseholds that allow firearms versus those who don't. Because I haven't seen any data. You may have data saying how many allow firearms on their premises, how many don't. And if in the absence of that data, I guess my question would be, do tenants not have the option to choose where they live in some cases? I understand some are priced out and some are others. There's definitely those considerations. But do tenants not have the option to live in a firearm-friendly apartment complex versus one that prohibits it? And do those apartments not exist?
Representative Reeves, quick follow-up.
Yeah, thank you for those questions. I would say in a lot of residential markets, lease agreements are standardized. I know that the apartment associations provide a standardized form of lease that doesn't actually prohibit firearms in that particular lease. But in 2009, the Attorney General opined that they certainly could, and this is aiming to fix that gap in the law. And I would just note that especially in tight housing markets like Middle Tennessee has been for a number of years, that lease terms are often take it or leave it. And most leases are between 30 and 40 pages. Most tenants don't read every line, but circumstances could change during the term of their tenancy. And certainly they may not realize that they need that protection in the lease, or rather, that clause would materially affect their ability to keep that tenancy.
Okay.
One more.
Chairman Clemens?
Yeah,
last
thank you,
follow-up.
Mr. Chairman. I apologize. So what I'm thinking here is, rather than pass a law that does this. I mean, I don't understand why we can't just say encourage apartments that want to allow firearms and tenants that want to live in those apartments to advertise that, that would have seemed to fix itself. Whereas if families that don't want to live somewhere where there's that additional risk of harm, let's say, or they don't want to live in an apartment complex where those are available, they can choose to live there as well. That seems to me that it would fix the issue, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Vaughn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize. This is asking a question that I do not know the answer to, so I apologize for that. And within your amendment, did you address short-term rentals? And is that something that is contemplated within this bill? Or would you, under the premises of Tennessee Code, or short-term rentals considered business premises as opposed to residential? What's your?
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that question, of course. And I thank you, by the way, for working with me on this amendment. This tackles both sections of the landlord-tenant code, both the URLTA, which covers most tenancies, and of course, we tend to mimic those same changes in the other part of that statute that may cover that. It may not. I'm not an expert in this section of the code, but I appreciate the question. I wish I could give you a solid answer on that, but I would say that if it is considered a lease, that it would affect that. And I'm not sure that it's a lease instead of a license.
You recognized, Chairman Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to my fellow committee members, I appreciate my friend from Davidson County's line of questioning. And you pretty well summed up what's been my conflict with this proposed bill all along. Is the Second Amendment more important than the Fifth and 14th? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that all amendments have to be thought about on their own. I'm talking about amendments to the Constitution. But I also stop and I think back about when I was a young lad, full of vim and vigor, had my apartment complex. Guns weren't as prevalent in society, and we did keep a big old baseball bat by the door in case trouble came looking for us. We had to have some way to resist it. And we live in different times today than then. And so what I've been complimentary of the bill sponsor in the fact that he has sought counsel, he has sought guidance, and he's been working hard. Let me tell you this, though. That shiny noggin's awful stubborn up there. He puts up a good argument. And so I would let the committee know that with the posture of this bill, this is the second time it's been calendared. So if we rolled it again, it would roll to the special calendar at the end of session. But because there's some other items that we've come up with, even our illustrious brand new chairman filed an untimely amendment. We had to have some conversations about untimely amendments in here. So there's going to be some additional massaging. If this subcommittee decides that we want to push it on out of here, I will let you know there will be more massages on language that we have moving it forward, because while it has really, really improved along the way, there's still a few more items that we need to. But I need to compliment the bill sponsor, because he has listened earnestly, and like I said, he has rebutted. He has had thoughtful rebuttals to criticisms that have been presented to him, and I would expect that same position to be assumed as we moved on.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor, for your bill, and the young ladies that testified. I certainly agree people want to be able to protect their families. My concern goes back to the question that Representative Lafferty asked. And that's where I'm not clear in terms of how your bill will affect this situation. Not so much with the apartments, I get it, I understand it. But a person who rents their home out often say there are conditions to where There's no pets, there's no smoking, you get a fine, you get a fee, cleanup fee. I can terminate the contract if it's found to be true in my house, renting to you. And I've seen it happen where people, they throw them out because they violated the contract that they signed. So in this case, if a person say, I can rent to you, except I don't allow firearms in my home. If you found to have them, then 30-day notice, you're out of there. Would that be a problem with this bill? This is a discussion that takes place before they sign. No firearms. If it's found that you got firearms, you will be terminated from living in my property. Is that a scenario where this bill can affect my ability to put that in a contractual agreement with the person who wants to rent my home?
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you for the question, Leader. I appreciate trying to get to answers about how this would affect folks out there trying to lease a basement apartment or a single family home that they own, whichever it is. And I would say it falls in the same framework as other landlord obligations when they lease anything as a residence, which is that it has to be habitable. It can't be, something that's broken down that doesn't fit those things. You have to collect a security deposit. This body back in 2024 passed a bill saying that we ought to have certain notice obligations on a landlord. Those things are good and important, and they're limited. And in this case, I've tried to limit this as much as I can as well.
You're recognized. Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I got an answer to the question that I need. That's what's troubling me. I understand your point. Let's say we sign the lease. They don't have a firearm. And you agreed in the lease, no firearms. But later you decide you want one. And you go through the training, you get your permit, you're good. And, upon inspection, I learned you have a firearm. Am I in a position, because you've already signed this lease with me, to say you violated the terms of this contract with me? I'm gonna have to terminate your lease and you have to move within 30 days, whatever the terms are in the contract.
You're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I was trying to answer your question. I'm sorry I didn't do it adequately. This bill says that you cannot waive, as a tenant, you cannot waive your right to protect yourself with a firearm. And so on January 1st of 2027, now, if you've signed a lease already, that lease is still in effect until it's renewed or extended or a new lease is done. But it says that once a dwelling unit is leased, the tenant has exclusive possession of that unit and the ability to get from that unit to their vehicle. And that's all it says.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Last follow-up.
This is not a follow-up. Thank you. This is a thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your answer. But I presume in the scenario that I presented, in that case, I probably wouldn't rent to them. And then would this come back later? I said no question, so I won't ask it. Okay, we'll talk later. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor.
Thank you. Leader Cochran.
Question on the bill.
Okay. Question be called on the bill. All in favor of sending House Bill 469 to full commerce, vote yes when the board is open. If you're opposed, vote no. Open the board, please, Mr. Clerk. Take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes and 2 nays.
House Bill 469 on to full commerce.
Thank you, Chair and Committee.
Thank you, Representative Reeves. And in regards to what Chairman Vaughn said earlier about the filing deadline for amendments, I do recognize that it's not 24 hours before the committee. It is 10 o'clock the day before. So anybody out there in the audience that is wondering when the bill filing deadline, the amendment filing deadline, it is 10 o'clock the day before. So put that in your back pocket and don't forget, because I will not forget after being humiliated like that. Thank you all. This was a pretty good day, I think, since we got out of here before 4 o'clock. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.